You're listening to the Sisterhood of Limitless Living podcast. I'm your host, Dr. April Moreno. I'm a public health specialist focused on integrative wellness and autoimmune living, supporting the community of women, where I help you to live your best quality of life through being your best self-advocate. Let's get started. Hello, Sisterhood. Happy New Year. Welcome to this episode of the Sisterhood of Limitless Living. I'm actually also simultaneously kind of recording this on video. You might see the front of my head looks like the front of a chicken rooster's head. I've just been having this regrowth of hair over the past several months, which is really interesting. And I don't quite understand it. But it did begin at the end of the year. Actually the beginning of last year, 2020. And there have been so many reports out there of hair loss during the pandemic. So I don't think this is too unusual. I've had hair regrowth more so than hair loss, where the hair seems to push out the hair that's there before. And suddenly I've got all this baby hair on my scalp. So it's really interesting. So yeah, some variation of alopecia is going on. The dermatologist wanted to do a nice little scalp biopsy, which I was not interested in, because either way, what would you do with that information other than reduce your stress? I'm already on disease-modifying medications, so if it were to be any other sort of autoimmune condition, I'm already in treatment for it. So here we are. I've got some short patches of hair sticking up. Hey, it's about 3 inches tall, straight up in the air. Why not? I don't mind. At least it's not baldness. It's definitely hair regrowth versus hair loss and baldness. And in this episode, I just hope that you're enjoying your new year. Thank goodness it's finally 2021, right? I'm just so glad that we have begun this new year. And I'm really excited that we are approaching 4,000 downloads of this podcast as we speak. Very grateful for that. Thank you so much for your support. Thank you so much for sharing your story, sisterhood. Thank you so much for being part of the Sisterhood of Limitless Living as we speak about mindfulness, awareness, limitless living, and basically just living our best possible selves despite the autoimmune journey, and learning from one another, from lessons, and growing with one another so that we are learning together in sisterhood. And I keep talking about sisterhood. The name of the podcast is the Sisterhood of Limitless Living. But today we're actually going to be speaking to a male who is living with autoimmune conditions, various autoimmune conditions that he's been dealing with for several years. And I met Emmitt not too long ago, actually, through some friends through the lupus community that I have been reaching out to in some of my work. I love the fact that Emmitt is also here in San Diego, like me. Emmitt is also mixed. He's Asian and Black. He's Blasian, as we say in some groups. So we're both mixed. I'm Latina and Asian, Chinese and Mexican. And Emmitt is Black and Filipino. I love meeting other mixed folks because I just feel this connection with them, just this bicultural, multicultural way of living as the norm. I just love it. Just feel very connected to people who are also mixed. So today, Emmitt's going to be talking to us about the experience of being a male with autoimmune conditions, on top of the fact that it is very rare in many cases for people of color to be diagnosed or recognized in the autoimmune space. Imagine being a male and being a person of color. It makes things even more difficult to find diagnosis and support awareness and representation out there. So he shares a bit about that story. And then also we talk about the differences in why it is the case that we do see these gender differences in male and female prevalence of autoimmune conditions. And then we talk a little bit, actually mostly about the power of the mind. So similarly, Emmitt is talking about how mental wellness and self-talk and self-belief and community is what really makes him powerful as a male lupus warrior. how reaching out, understanding how to help others is where he's finding the strength from within. So he talks about how to connect with oneself, to connect with the community, and then also how to advocate for yourself and others as well. So it's a beautiful episode. I hope you enjoy it. He's out there with a mission to help others as a male lupus warrior, helping other people, male and female, who are living with lupus and other autoimmune conditions. And so I'm so excited to share this episode with you. So also, by the way, Emmitt is going to be hosting a support group through the Autoimmune Community Institute. The Autoimmune Community Institute is a nonprofit organization out there that I'm the founder of, and it's dedicated to autoimmune health equity in research, advocacy, and support. And the website is acicommunity.org. And if you're interested in joining the support group for all autoimmune conditions that Emmitt will be hosting, visit our website and sign up. And I hope you enjoy this episode, as I've definitely enjoyed having the conversation. And take good care. Thank you so much for joining us at the Sisterhood of Limitless Living podcast. I'm your host, Dr. April Moreno, and today we are going to be hearing the male perspective about living with autoimmune conditions on this journey. So I hope that you enjoy this episode. We hear a slightly different approach now, right? In this episode, we often speak to people, women who are living with autoimmune chronic illness, sharing their story. But today we get to hear how it affects men in the autoimmune world, and particularly with lupus. So today we're speaking with Emmitt Henderson III. He is the CEO of Male Lupus Warriors, and he is my neighbor here in sunny San Diego. Welcome, Emmitt.
Thank you, April. Thank you for having me. I really appreciate you.
Thank you. We love you. We appreciate everything that you do to support people in the lupus community. We love the fact that you are vocal and you are visible as a male, as a person of color with lupus. We need you out there. We love you. We appreciate you and support you. Tell us a little bit more about yourself.
Well, let's see. Going back to where I was actually born in the Philippines and raised here in the States almost all my life. I'm still looking forward to going back because it's been a month since I was there. So I'm still looking for that plane ticket to go back. Being born there, raised here in San Diego, my history with this autoimmune disease, systemic lupus, actually goes back to 1980 when I was a kid. I had a rash all over my body that the doctors at that time couldn't understand what it was. And I ended up getting diagnosed with rashes and fevers at that time of unknown origin. Fast forward to 1995, as a young man working here in San Diego, had everything going for me, my own property, my cars, I was raising my kids, just living the life I'm supposed to live until I'm starting to get these crazy pains all over my body and joint pains. Joint pains kind of slowed me down from doing my everyday job. But as a young man thriving to do everything he needed, I didn't see going to the doctors as an option because the pain was inconsistent. And because of that, I treated it as if it'll go away. I can still go to work. I can still do everything I needed to do. It kind of didn't, go that way that I wanted it to go. When the pain started to go to my lower back, I knew something was wrong. So I went into the emergency room at that time. And from there, they had found out that I was already in renal failure, which my kidneys were already failing. I was in the hospital for about 3.5 weeks to find out what's the cause of it. That's when I got diagnosed with systemic lupus. From there, I had a host of medications I had to take. From there, lupus kind of took its toll on me, from everything from going through chemotherapy sessions to radiation therapy. I also had lupus affect almost every major organ and system in my body. Most notable ones was the kidneys. I ended up having a kidney transplant. Thank you to my little brother that gave me that second chance of life. And then when lupus got to my heart, it put me in the hospital for 3 months. In that 3 months, I was in a coma for a little bit under 30 days in that coma. I did end up reviving from that, coming back from that. But then because I was put in a self-induced coma, I had to learn to get how to walk and talk and use my limbs all over again. So that was a crazy time for me and my family. Coming out of that, my rheumatologist decided that something needed to be done for my lupus because of how aggressive it was. I ended up getting a clinical trial that they signed me up for, which is basically what saved my life. That clinical trial was a bone marrow stem cell transplant. That procedure was crazy, but to fast forward with that, it's what slowed down my flares that I was having literally monthly for over a year that hospitalized me every single time. However, even though it slowed me down with my lupus symptoms, lupus already done its damage. Since then, I've already had problems with my liver, with my esophagus, with having ulcers. I ended up having to feed from a tube for over almost a week and a half or so. My lungs were affected. I was on oxygen for about a month. I had a shoulder replacement. I had a knee replacement. I went through shingles, bad cases of it where I still don't have feelings in parts of my body, bad serious cases of gout, arthritis, Raynaud's. I've had it all. But to kind of come out of everything that I'm doing now is a big lesson that I've learned in regards to, dealing with this autoimmune disease. It's something that lupus had put me through, but as a young man with a strong mental health, I found my way to get out of it, because for me personally, it's mental over my physical capabilities. As long as I know mentally that I'm able to get past this, my body will catch up and do it from there. So that's kind of a little bit of my history of what I went through on the medical side, should I say.
So many different challenges that you faced with organ issues and challenges and
yes,
coma and so on. Yeah, the donation of kidney from your brother, all these really deep stories, these deep experiences.
And to every episode, there is a story to every episode, but I'm saving that for my upcoming book that I will be releasing on the man's 25-year journey with lupus as of now, and counting, should I say. But it's a lot. Sjogren's syndrome came into play, where I'm dealing with that right now as well, and also a brain issue that I'm currently dealing with right now as well. So the story goes on, but again, it's my mental health that's getting me through everything.
Yeah, I love the fact that you mentioned mental health. And I don't know if I've mentioned this to you before, but the Sisterhood of Limitless Living is also very much dedicated to the power of the mind, very much dedicated to mindfulness and awareness of the present moment, about assessing your health needs, assessing your quality of life needs, being very conscious and aware of your body, being able to advocate for yourself. So the power of self-awareness and the mental health journey is crucial. And I love that you mention that and also acknowledge its importance in your journey as well.
Oh, very much, April, very much. Only because of the fact that, again, as a young man, coming up the way I did with a good career in automotive, I've had the strong management mentality already. It's just that when I got sick, it's nothing that I accounted for. It's not anything I expected or knew that was coming. So I had to shift my priorities from making money and working every day to now self-love, self-care, take care of myself first, because I'm no good to anybody or my job if I'm not good to myself. And that's one of the biggest things that I've overcome.
I want to get into a little bit more about your experiences after you've had to leave your job due to your health. But before that, I would love to hear a little bit about the differences between gender or in other communities as well, in general with autoimmune. It's like people of color are maybe less numerous except in lupus.
Right.
In other conditions, they're less numerous. However, their disease is actually much more severe in many cases. So it's almost like the less common it is, the more potentially severe it can be, right? So I'm curious, in terms of the gender differences with lupus, what you can share.
Well, I think you hit it right there, to where when you said that the most unknown about it is where you see the most severe that people are going through. I got lupus, was diagnosed with lupus in 1995. I've never heard of it. Google wasn't around for me to even look it up. But again, just now you hearing part of my story, you're saying that I went through a lot, but people again don't understand what lupus is. Lupus is a big umbrella for many different things that can come about. Me being as African-American, mixed Filipino, we were trying to wonder and figure out where did this come from, whether this disease was hereditary. And unfortunately, any seekings in the family came out to nothing. Now, could it have been found or diagnosed in the Philippines? Very possible it has. It's just that back then, or even now, if people had passed away from lupus because of either kidney failure, because of any type of failure in their body, there's a high chance that they got diagnosed, or that they got diagnosed with what killed them was whatever failed in their system, not lupus in general. Now here, being diagnosed with lupus, of course, when I go through a kidney problem, that's what the focus is, fix the kidneys, however, not fixing lupus because they need to fix what lupus is damaging. As a man with lupus, being that that ratio is such a small percentage of us having lupus compared to 1 out of 10 person is a man with lupus, it was kind of hard for me to accept that I was told that lupus is a woman's disease, literally from the rheumatologist that diagnosed me that. And back then I was thinking, well, that can't be right then because I'm not a woman. I'm all man for everything that I'm doing. The big man that I am, there was no way that it was I can accept that. So because of that, after learning about it and reading as time went on, it was still one of those things as a stigma for a guy. We don't let things out that bothers us. We don't let things out that kind of makes us feel that we're vulnerable. We don't let things out to make us look sensitive. So it was hard for me to let the people know, my friends know, why I'm in the hospital so much. Why are you going through this? The word lupus never came up. What came up is that I have problems with my heart, problems with my kidney, problems with this and that. It was just one of those things again to where I just didn't want to look less than of a man that I am because I have this woman's disease. Now, as I got to know and go through this journey, into these 25 years, I got stronger about it. I was able to accept it, that any autoimmune disease on there, it doesn't choose color, it doesn't choose gender. It's something that we just get. Now, I've also looked at it to where about all of that, let's look into what I need to do to get better with it. And that's when my mental health came in stand. So in regards to that, it's just one of those things, again, as a man, it was hard to accept, but I had to talk to myself, mentally be strong about it and know that it is something that I just got to get over it. Man, woman, anybody with the disease is something that we can overcome.
One of those challenges with lupus in men or just disease in men is being able to talk about it and share what you're going through. So that also makes it more difficult to get better because you're not getting the help in many cases that you need because you're not sharing those difficulties with anybody. So that's another aspect of the gender difference in lupus.
Absolutely. And to throw in there also, April, even back then in the 90s, late 90s, when I was looking for a support group, they all accommodated women. I walked into rooms where it's nothing but women and I walked back out because I didn't see another guy in there. I didn't see something that I can get out of that because it may not have pertained to me. Mm-hmm. So that was frustrating at the time where, again, a lot of it had to be my own mentality of self-learn and self-educate.
Yeah, I wonder what made it a women's disease. I don't see themes. I just don't even see it.
Even today, that they're still trying to look at the chromosome factors in men and women, why that ratio is the way that it is. So even today, and that's just the thing about how much of a mystery lupus is. We heard the name, we may know the definition, but it is still a mystery. Hence, there is no cure.
We'll just keep working toward that cure. But, no matter what, I think it is that power of the mind as well that can help to modify those factors. But tell us a little bit more about what that journey was like for you when you had to quit your job that you enjoy, that was paying the bills, and having to figure out a new way of getting through each day.
April, that was hard. I mean, we're talking about, since 1995, I've worked full time, and every episode of sickness that I got, I was at a point to where I make so much more money going to work that I can't be sick. I can't. It's just that I had no choice but to take off because my body did not, react the way I wanted it to. So when I was in the hospital or I was on leave, I was in such a hurry to get back to work. But it was only because of the fact that my mind state was working and the money that I was making at the time, and the fact that I even had a job was something that I saw myself doing as an everyday routine. But again, I had to throw in having lupus now has to be added to my everyday schedule because I don't know what this disease is going to bring to me. Through the years, whether it was a joint replacement, whether it was the heart episode, the kidney episode, I've taken time off of work to get better. And when I did, I was the first one begging the doctor, give me that note. I need to go back. I need to go back. Luckily, fortunately for me, I had the job to go back to because they held my positions. And I understand that it's not like that in every case. So it's very difficult. I can see that if you have that mentality of wanting to go to work, but you have a sickness, it's very hard to kind of work with those because the sickness is unpredictable. Also, at the same time, you may not have an employer that's accommodating that will wait for you. Employers, your position, and no matter what position it is valuable, and they need to have somebody to fill that space. They're reluctant to keep somebody that long, or once the Family Leave Act expires, should I say, they're not really much going to keep you around because they don't want to keep this episode of coming in, being sick. This past year, when my brain issue was diagnosed, it took me out of work till now. And this is the longest episode that I've been out of work. I do have that thrive of getting back into the workplace, of getting back to my everyday routine. I do have the motivation to go out there in customer service, meeting people, making money. But I found another passion, and that passion is advocating for this same disease that stricken me for the past 25 years. When I wasn't doing advocating, that's because I worked 12, 14, 16 hours a day and I was making good money. But now that I'm not, I found a way not only mentally to be strong, not only physically to keep myself in shape, but to keep myself going with this purpose. And this purpose is advocating. And this advocating is not something that you just sit down and say, I advocate for this. It's actually work. So I've been doing a lot of work, and because of it, it's kept my mind sharp on it. So I think the whole main point of that is to find something that you love to do. Find something that is new to you. Now there's a lot of systems and organizations that offer free classes, that offers free training, that offers free things. Take advantage of it if you have the time off of work. Again, for me, it was routine: get up, go to work, make good money, come home late at night, call it a day. Now I needed a void to fill in that wake up part, and then from till the end of the night, I needed something for that. So advocating for it, doing things for myself, doing things to help people with any autoimmune disease is what I've been doing. And therefore, that's how Male Lupus Warriors was created. So I found a way that now work is like the last thing on my mind because I have more of a purpose to help people, which is now my new work.
So what advice can you give somebody who have a job that they like, or maybe a job that they don't like, but they have income, and then, it's been reliable, but then now their health conditions are getting to the point in terms of fatigue or pain or whatever it is that they cannot be employed in that position anymore? What advice would you give them?
The best advice I can give for that is to practice and study self-care, self-love, because you need to be okay with yourself in any situation that you're in. If you're hindered by an illness, if you're stricken by a disease, or you're limited because of not being able to go somewhere, go out or do something, make sure that you are okay with that in your mind and in your heart first. If you're okay with that, then you can put an action plan together that what is going to entertain you during this crisis, what is going to keep you going. You have income that you can pay the bills, or you can try to find a source of income that can pay the bills, but that's still all part of the self-love, self-family, self-everything for you first. Once you establish home, then you go out and venture what's going to keep you occupied, what's going to keep you motivated, what's going to give you a purpose of doing everything on a daily basis. So fix that first. I mean, I had to come to the realization that I'm not going to work anymore. I had to come to the realization I'm not going to see my customers anymore because I can't work anymore. So when I was able to accept that, I shifted focus now to what I'm doing now with advocating. And that has, again, I'm not going anywhere backwards because of this now.
Any last concepts or last messages of advice that you would like to share?
One thing I like to throw in is advocate for yourself, everybody. If one thing you can do is advocate for yourself of understanding what you are personally going through, listen to your body, study what triggers you to where you are feeling sick and what makes you feel better. Take advantage of the chances that you feel better, pay attention to the parts that's making you sick, and advocate for yourself to your doctors, your physicians, or even your family. Everybody needs to know how you're doing, so therefore they're not looking at you in any other different way of making excuses or just not being you. If you have an illness, it's okay to have one. You just make sure that you put yourself in a position where you don't want people feeling sorry for you because they want to feel that you got this, and you do got this. Every one of you guys are warriors out there. You just need to bring that warrior from inside of you out to let everybody know that you got this. And advocating for yourself is the biggest thing that I could recommend. Biggest thing.
Thank you so much, Emmitt, for joining us today. Really appreciate it.
April, I really appreciate you and everything, platform that you're on, and anything else I can do, reach out to me.
All right. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Take care. Thank you for listening to this episode of the Sisterhood of Limitless Living podcast, Season 2. Hope you enjoyed the episode. Look forward to having you join us in upcoming episodes as well, where we continue to talk about integrative wellness and autoimmune living our best lives, being our own best advocates. Feel free to subscribe on iTunes to the podcast, and we are also available on several other locations as well. For more information about Dr. April Moreno, you can visit aprilmorenophd.com. Take care.